This video is a deep dive into the opportunity module inside JobRunner and Floor Manager. Just want to point out to you that I'm in the JobRunner system, as you can see at the upper left-hand side of the navigator here. But in Floor Manager, you'll see the same opportunity button. There are a couple small differences, namely the bid register that would not be available in Floor Manager, and we'll point that out once we get into the bid register details a little bit further. Before I go into it, let's just talk about what the goal of the opportunity module is. It's really, some customers refer to it as a CRM or a customer relationship management system. And it's really more of a lead, or we consider a lead a new opportunity, a lead management system for both commercial and retail organizations. A place for you to begin documenting information about the job opportunity many times before you're even ready to submit a proposal to them. So this information in every single organization lives somewhere. With some companies, it's documented in an Excel spreadsheet. It could be in Smartsheet somewhere. Each salesperson in the organization is keeping track of their leads and their follow-ups and things like that, so that they're able to effectively manage the leads that have been sent to them. And the goal is to ultimately close them. So we're not really a true CRM per se, because that would evaluate the overall customer account, the last time you talked to them, etc. Think of this more as a separate document or a separate opportunity for every lead. So you could have multiple opportunities going for the same customer at any given time. So let's dive in here. I can locate a contact in our system. So you see Turner Apartments here in the customer file. If I go all the way forward to the last one, you've got Wesco, and you've got Fairmont Hotel, for example. So let's say I've keyed in Fairmont as an organization, a customer, and I want to generate a new opportunity for them. So I can take their customer information and I can say transfer that back to an opportunity. And when I do that, it starts a new opportunity and it backfills the customer name, the city, state, address, phone numbers, if they're in their emails, if you have one for the particular account. You could also go in and you could just say a new opportunity right in the opportunity module and fill all of this in. And there's even the ability to create a new customer if this is where that customer's information was input for the very first time. So ultimately, this is where the bill will be sent. So it might be the name of the general contractor, the name of the customer, whoever would eventually be responsible to approve the bid and pay the eventual invoice would go here. So they're the sold to customer, so to speak. And then the job address is over here. In many instances, they are one and the same. So if they are, you can just hit this little arrow here and it fills the information that's been entered into here over into this area here. You can go through and you can overwrite the information if you want. You can manually freeform it. If the job address happens to be another customer in your database, you can also hit this down arrow and search through your customers and select one from the customer list. There's some advantages to that, which we won't touch on today. But that is the purpose of the two addresses. You'll notice that it assigns an opportunity number in the upper left and a date that this opportunity was created. Based on the person that is logged in, which I am logged in as Davy Jones, it is initiated by me and it is assigned to me as a salesperson, although I can trigger in here. Let's say I was an admin assistant and a new opportunity got recorded that came in via the website or the phone. Then I could go in here and it would automatically record me because that's who I'm logged in as. However, I could assign a different salesperson to that should I want to, or assign it to myself. But by default, it'll fill salesperson 1 and the initiated by to the same person. Okay. Looking at the fields right below the ones that we just spoke of, you'll see that there is a spot for salesperson 2. Some companies have more than one salesperson working on an opportunity. This would be the owner of the opportunity, the architect, should you want to record that. And then when you get into here is the projected award date. Now you'll notice that the creation date of this opportunity was April 21st, and the award date is also April 21st. We automatically fill that date in with something so that it's not left empty. However, you can click in here, and if you said, you know what, we're working this lead today, we just found out about it, and we're expecting that to hear something, whether or not we get the job, by May 2nd, so I can go and change that date. And then you'll also notice that the opportunity is scored at a 50% probability. So do we think we're going to get it? Well, in the beginning, we just automatically put everything as a 50-50 coin flip. You can go in here, though, if you've worked with this particular account many times, you've got a relationship with maybe somebody that's in charge of facility management, you could go in here and say, we're going to give ourselves a 70% probability of getting this. The dollar size amount could be left blank, but if you've got a preliminary idea after looking at a set of floor plans that it's going to be around a $50,000 job, you can plug in the dollar size here as well, and then it'll fill in here. Sales stage. Interestingly, we have tried to break free of conventional logic from other CRM systems such as Goldmine or ACT or something like that. In those systems, they associate the sales stage with the probability. So, for example, in here, if we said, you know what, we've got samples checkout, or it's just a preliminary lead, or we've got a measure scheduled, whatever these phases are, if it's preliminary, for example, in some of those systems, it would automatically set the probability to 10%. Well, that's not always true when you have a relationship with accounts. So you may have gotten all the way to the phase of a quote submitted, but still scored this thing at a 20% if the prospect has told you they're getting 10 other bids and maybe you don't want the job anyway. Who knows? So we don't tie those two things together. They're two independent things. The sales stage in the admin portion of the software. So there's an administrative settings area. This is known as a value list of data. You can go in and build your own value list. So if you don't like what we have here by default in our sales demo software, you can go in and plug in a value list differently than that. And there's a way that you can change the order of these as well, even though right now it's just by default they're sorting alphabetically. So quote submitted is the stage that we've got set on this one. This, we can plug in who referred the sale. You can just type this thing in for information in here. A company name that may have referred. So if you're picking a specific customer from the database, you can do that. If they're a referral source, there's a way in the customer file to set up like a parent company. Let's say it's a property management company that sends your business all kinds of rentals to manage, and you're wanting to track them in the opportunity module. Then the parent company would be a part of this drop-down list so that you can track who referred you to the customer. Or if you work with a design firm, for example, they could be the referred by. It was just a way to do an umbrella report so that you can see from your referral sources, other than advertising, how many leads or something that someone is sending you. Okay, brief job description is also very important. If you're commercial, and let's say you do a lot of work at Vanderbilt Medical Center, maybe they're your bread and butter account. When you look at a list of opportunities, you might see 50 to 60 Vanderbilt Medical Center in your list. And that doesn't really help you find the one that you're looking for. So under the brief job description, we could say triage unit cafe, something like that. So at least when you're looking at your list view, you're looking at your reports. If this thing eventually gets invoiced, even in the AR aging report, it'll give you that brief job description field. Pardon me. Okay, so that kind of explains the header information here. Let me go back up to recall date. That is so that you can assign yourself a to-do item. When you establish a recall date here, it opens up this little to-do screen. I can assign it to myself or somebody else in the organization. I can plug in a due date and say, okay, I need to call them by phone on Monday. And then I can plug this in from here, opportunity recall. Be sure to phone them and ask for Jennifer, for example. And then the next action here would be a phone call. And you can set up a due date right here that pops down the calendar. We already did that. And then a due time as well. And then I can close out of that, and it will record the to the recall date. And I didn't plug a time in there, which is why that is void of information. Where does that information go? Well, if I've assigned it to myself, and this video is not about this dashboard, but if I go in here and we take a look at it, all of my pending to-dos, like the one that we just created, will be in my to-do segment here. So you'll notice right here we've got the Fairmont Hotel. This was created from a particular opportunity, and I can expand this and see more of that information that we had plugged in. I can close out of it. It'll be here. All of the past due to-dos will be in red. So anything that's still current or pending will be here. And these are all hyperlinks. So if I click right on that, it'll take me right back to that particular opportunity for review. So you can make your dashboard, you can set it to be the default opening screen. You just saw how that I went back to it, presumably midday. But it can be your opening screen when you open the software so that you always see your to-dos, your job mails, and any of the business analytic metrics that you've been granted permission to see as an employee of the company. Okay, I think that pretty well explains the header here. We'll come back to the bid register details in a moment. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the opportunity. So down below is where you'll start designating information about the opportunity. So are they new or repeat? And this is, again, just becomes a measurable metric. For example, you could look over the course of the year and see how many new opportunities you've got or repeat customers. Market sector and market sources, those are both also value lists, just kind of like the sales stage that we talked about a moment ago. Both of those are also editable by the end user, by you, the customer. And so you'll see that we've got here corporate tenant improvement, designer, healthcare, hospitality, and so on. So that would be what market sector you're selling in. So if we said, okay, this is going to be corporate tenant improvement, well, we'll call this healthcare, let's call it hospitality, since it's for the Fairmont Hotel. All right. And so market source would be advertising source. So again, you can control this value list. So if I said, this is a referral or a repeat customer, but we'll say they heard about us through our website. We'll see where all of this information is reported and how it's collected in a moment. You can designate whether this is a stock or special order job. These fields are not all required, by the way. So you can go back and backfill this information later as more information becomes known. For companies that want to track the age demographics so that they can see which age group to market to. And when you go and purchase lead lists from an area, this is more of a residential or a retail concept than it would be commercial. But you can actually go and from lead management companies or data management firms, you could say, I want to see all people that's college educated between this age group and this age group that live in a particular zip or a postal code. And they can give you a full list of people with all of their address and their names, etc. So as you're measuring how many of those convert to a job, you could try to make a determination which demographic is purchasing the product from you or that you're closing sales on. And that will help you know how to target your advertising in the future. So we'll just say 40 to 50, and then you can specify the gender. If it's irrelevant, for a Fairmont Hotel, then you don't have to specify that. And then this information here, whether you won the opportunity, lost it, suspended it, archived it, and your reasons, those come later. So if you have multiple store locations, like divisions in your company, You can specify which store location this opportunity belongs to. So we'll just say 1 Point Floors. And then down below, we can also plug in product interest. So let's say it's carpet and they want wood floor. Again, this is a value list, and these checkboxes will dynamically appear or disappear as you record that, as you populate that value list with content. And then if you know you're always competing with DBM Interiors, for example, and you know that you're going head-to-head with him on that, that's a relevant piece of information. Why, you might ask? Well, later on you can see how many you won, where they were your direct competitor, how many you lost, and just try to figure out, why you're winning or losing jobs to them. Maybe they're just, there's lots of variables and reasons for that. Okay, so this is wonderful. It's a place to track all this information. If you are a residential dealer, and let's say you have a product showroom, most commercial flooring contractors have like a room full of architect folders that they've got. So they really, yes, they have samples, but not in the traditional fashion that a retail showroom would have. But nonetheless, we have this products page. If you're specifying product with an architect, you can certainly write in here what you're specifying and start recording some notes on all that. But if you're in residential, and let's say you have labeled your samples in your showroom with tags that either floor manager or job runner can produce, then you can go right up here to barcode, and this allows you to scan those samples and check them out, or scan them and check them in. And we have most of the stuff in commercial these days. You can drop ship sample requests straight from the supplier, and they'll send it to Fairmont Hotel, for example. But if they do borrow your architect folder and you did want to track that, then you could certainly use this functionality for that to figure out who has your architect folders if you need to get them back. So that's what this area does. One more thing, if we're looking at sample checkout, as something does get populated here through a scan, or I can go in here and just choose something from the catalog. So we'll say it's a Bentley, and I'll go down here and say it's going to be a Kings Road product, for example, and what color sample they take. As things are checked out and checked back in, if they are checked back in either manually or through the scanner, you can mark it as returned. If you've got 10, 15 items on here and the prospect or your customer says, is there any way you can denote which one I liked? Yes, you can, just by clicking that checkbox. If you take this information and convert it to a proposal down the line, when the time is right, then any of the lines that you've checked as light will feed into the proposal for you automatically. You don't have to relook them up when you're building the lines of order entry. So that's what the product tab does. In admin, you can specify how many days you want to allow your samples to be out of your business. And if you've got that specified, it will print bold across the top that the samples are due back in by a certain time. So again, a good feature for either the hybrid dealer or someone that is strictly residential using Floor Manager. I only touch on both here because I want to record one video that would have cross-application to both systems. So when I'm mentioning here a sample checkout, I realize it's very residential. But if I jump up here to bid register now, that would be something that is strictly available in the Job Runner system that's not in Floor Manager. So we'll take a moment now to kind of discuss the bid register. If you have an estimation department, sometimes salespeople will do their own estimating, and that's fine. But if you have an estimation department and you start this opportunity and you know that the takeoff or a field measure, either one has to be completed by a certain date and time, you can go right in here and assign which estimator you want to do the work for you. We'll say Chris McKenna, and we can say the takeoff is due back to you, let's say on Monday, because you've got a bid deadline of next Friday. So Chris needs to know that his work needs to be done by April 25th to give the salesperson time with it so that they can get the bid submitted by April 29th. And when you plug a date in here, it automatically fills this with the day of the week, and then you can go in here and plug in the time of day if you want as well. This information here, takeoff hours, this is just an analytic so that the estimators can start to give feedback back to whoever the salesperson is, in this case Davy Jones, Like when you've got a plan of this size and scope, it takes me, 16 hours to do that, so that they become aware of the time necessary to take those things. And you can also plug in the amount of square feet in the project, and then that way it would start giving you a measurable metric in a general sense of how many hours per square foot it would take to do. So if you see another plan and it's for 250,000 square feet or something in a building, you can say, okay, that's going to be about this many hours, so that you can give your estimators plenty of lead time with when the takeoff is due back. So that is the goal anyway. The estimation department, they of course can come into this opportunity module. Part of the reason is, and we'll come back to this in a moment, in this docs tab right here that I'm hovering over, I can click on it. If you've got a PDF that's been sent to you of the actual floor plan for the takeoff, then you can put that right into the Job Runner system, and then when the estimator has it scheduled to do the takeoff, then they can go right in here and retrieve the PDF and download it from here if it's in the docs management area. And then they can import that into whatever estimation software they're using to do the full takeoff. So if I've attached something to this, we'll just plug in this, and I'll set it in here. And I realize that is not, an executable is not something you'd put in there. You would put in normally a PDF or something, or maybe an MDS spec sheet or something. But if there's a document available for the estimation department, it'll put a red paper clip. That is real consistent throughout the software. Anytime information is held behind one of these tabs, you'll see a paper clip. So here you see a green, like an open activity, and something here that's completed. So that's what those paper clips mean. It just is a visual indicator to go there and take a peek, because something is probably there. And in this case, we could say the bid docs are available because we just put them in. Okay, so bid register. When I go in here now, and if I said, you know what, if I work in doing takeoffs for just some of my sales reps, I can choose them from this list. I can go in here and, Chris he's an estimator. Let me go back to Davy Jones and see all of his bids that are due. And I can go in here and sort, I believe, by the estimator, and I'm Chris McKenna, and I can see right in here all of the stuff. This is the one that we just put in for the triage unit cafe. And I can go right in here and see that it was entered by Davy. Here's my opportunity date and number. And my takeoff is due back to Davy on 4/25. So you can sort that as well. And then it'll give you this list chronologically as to what, these are grossly past due. But then this one is due on the 25th, which is a Friday. And if I had plugged in the time, it would show me the time of that as well. Because we all know in contract work that if you don't get a bid in under the deadline, then your bid is disqualified in most cases. So that's that. It's really just a grid list to let you see what has been done. Once the the estimate is done and turned back into the sales department, and then they've prepared the proposal and submitted it to the client, they can go right in here and bid submitted, and they can plug in a day like, hey, we did get it in on time on April 29th. And if they plug that in there, it'll denote that in the bid register. And I think, without running a test here and confirming, I think this shows in the open bid register. So if I plug this in on, let's say we got it done today, and so now the bid was submitted, so it would be complete. But if I go back into my bid register and we look at that particular bid, it's going to show me here that the bid did get submitted, and right here on the date of 4/21. That's what this date column means. However, it'll stay in here as a confirmation for 3 days. So once we get to the 24th of April, this one will automatically disappear out of this list. So we leave it in there intentionally for 3 days. So if you said, well, I don't remember if I marked that as the proposal got submitted or not. So once those 3 days have surpassed and that thing drops out of this list, the record doesn't go away. It just hides it from the open bid register. But you could go up here and say show completed, and then it would show you everything you got done and what day the bid got submitted, etc. So it's a really nice tool to keep your project managers and your salespeople and your estimators in sync with their schedules with one another. Okay, now for the good part. So I think we've got all this. We understand, again, bid register, job runner only feature, etc. So what does this do for me? Do I really have to go to each record at a time to figure out what's going on in my company? No. We have what's called a pipeline. And when you click on the pipeline, you'll see here by default that it's only showing Davy Jones jobs. So Davy is not seeing anybody's open pipeline to be followed up on that belongs to another salesperson unless he is listed as salesperson 2 on somebody else's lead. And in that case, when you've got two salespeople that are working together to service an account, you would see the primary salesperson's name here. And then if you were to click on that, you would see that Davy is in salesperson slot number 2, for example. Okay, if you have proper permission in the company, you can go in here. First of all, you can turn off salesperson 2 and search if you want that off. But you can run it by store location. So if you're a manager of one location and you only want to look at that, you can filter this list. Or you can say show all. And when I do that, it would show me everybody's leads in the company here, or everybody's open opportunities, if I had permission to see all of that. But again, I can go back in here and filter it just to mine again, and it's not showing me everybody else's. By default, when I go into my pipeline, let me return back out and come back in. So here we are. Let's go to the very last one that we were on. So for Fairmont Hotel, if I click on my pipeline, by default, the initial sort on this thing is by the anticipated month of contract award date. Okay? So again, demo data, so we've got stuff that's years old in here, but you'll grasp the concept here. So this is the salesperson. So again, Davy is only seeing Davy's leads. In most companies, they'll kind of have a general policy that if they haven't landed an opportunity, once they've submitted a proposal, let's say in 120 days, they probably lost it to someone else, to another company, or the customer decided not to do it. And so therefore, they don't want to look at this list with a lot of old content in it. So you could set this thing up that says, you know what, I only want to look back in my pipeline for 120 days. And when I do that, my list becomes far more limited in what it's displaying. So you'll see here, this thing cut down to 5 leads now versus however many it was when I had it set to 1,000 days. So let's just do a year. So we'll say 365-day look back. That way we won't get anything coming in from 2019. Perfect. So now we have 9 leads that we're working here. Okay. Again, they're sub-summarized by month. So I can look at each month and I can see when there is a dollar amount placed into one of the, like a projected dollar amount, which is this column right here. We call it size. Then you're going to see here in a particular month when there are sizes on things, like in October or August, there's a cumulative total of $200,000 worth of leads that we're chasing. October, 20,000. And we'll skip down here to March. There's 2 in here, and neither one of them have a dollar amount on it. Okay, so what's nice about this, let me zoom out here, because this is how you would normally look at it. I've just got it zoomed in to make it more visible in the video. But if I go in here and plug dollar amounts on these, this is nice, that you can edit all of the information right inside the pipeline. In other words, you don't have to go back into form view, which is an individual record view, to edit this stuff. So if I said, all right, this one is, we know it's about a $35,000 job. And this one here, we'll say it's about 125K. So I can plug those 2 values in. And what the system does is it takes the probability that we have assigned to it. This is good that this one's at a 50%, because it's taking, $17,500 of this one, and then half of this one, and it's adding those 2 things together to come up with the $80,000 for that month. So maybe a better look on it would be is if I go right here to this one, there's only one lead in that month. It's a $75,000 opportunity. We've got it scored at a 50% probability, and we know that half of 75 grand is 37,500. So when I look at my summary total down here of 477 grand, that adds up all the dark values to come up with a weighted pipeline. So we didn't feel when we designed the software that it was appropriate or necessary to give a false signal by saying, wow, we're going to close $477,000 worth of leads. Not so, because some of them may be scored quite low and other ones are highly probable. And so by giving them the weighted average based on the probability factor, we're looking at a realistic amount each month. You may have noticed over here that this is reflecting sales goals as well. Let me zoom in so you can see that a little bit closer. So you've got 400% of the sales goal, 40% of this sales goal. So within each salesperson's setup area in the software, I will not take the time to go there, but you can set monthly sales goals for each month. So if you're in the north, you might know that January, February would be slower months just due to weather, and you could set a lower sales goal in those months than what you might set, in April or May when people start getting income tax checks returned in the mail, and it would drive more business and again, I'm referring to a residential company there. But so sales goals would show you that what percent of the sales goal the person is quoting. There are other reports that is not a part of this video that will compare the sales goals to the actual invoiced or delivered tickets for that month. And that's the true metric there. What you start off with as an opportunity is great. Obviously, if you're well in excess of your sales goal, then you're probably going to hit it, particularly when your probability percentages are up. But it's just something we show here so that you can kind of get a feel for how you're doing and how this might result or wind up on the final scorecard there of how's your sales goals versus your invoice tickets for the month, or your delivered tickets, as some systems call it. Okay, so let me zoom back out. Actually, let me zoom back in. Change my mind. You'll notice here we've got red stars and green flags. So it kind of looks like Lucky Charms, I suppose, but they mean something different. The red star is a brand new lead that someone's put in the system. So if you've got a person that is fielding leads over the phone, or perhaps these leads are coming in from your website, and I failed to mention that, but JobRunner and Floor Manager both have an integration to what is called JotForm. We've got another video online about JotForm, and what that is it's a web page that you might have on your website. This says, contact us, we're interested in a bid or more information about flooring or whatever. And a customer then submits their information to you through your website. It will automatically, if JotForm is being used for a web form generator, it can integrate with Floor Manager and JobRunner and automatically create an opportunity for you. So as your customers or your prospects are filling things out on the website, it's automatically feeding into the system. You can send confirmation emails to them through JotForm, etc. It's quite nice. It saves a lot of error and omission when you're entering customer data in. And it just ensures that you're capturing 100% of that and it gets cataloged into the system. So regardless of how a new lead comes in, it's going to get a red star on it when it is a new lead. As soon as you make the first contact and you go in here and document a note, like I called the customer or I responded to them via email or whatever, however you've reached back out to them, if you're diligently recording those notes in the system, it keeps a note chronology, and then it also will date and timestamp your last day of contact, and then it will convert the red star to a green flag. So if you're an owner or a sales manager and you're looking at different salespeople's pipelines and you see a lot of red stars on a lot of leads that came in long ago, you might have a problem that people are not adequately following up on their leads and they just need a little encouragement. Okay, so what is the note? I can hover over the green flag and it will just show me a brief glimpse of what the note was that we documented without having to click in there. I can also click on it and it'll open up the same note list, and here I can post a new comment. So if I said followed up again, and I can say post the entry, and you'll see right here when I post it, it'll put the login person's name, so Davy Jones, April 21st at 2:41 p.m. So it plugs that in. One of the previous follow-ups was an email sent from the salesperson Zoe, and when she did that, it automatically dropped in here that it was an email. And had we plugged something into the subject line or the body of it, it would have recorded all that information here. So it's really good for, full staff collaboration, that when you're in the opportunity module, and particularly when you're in the salesperson 2 slot, or if you're a sales manager, that when you're reading these notes and looking at them, you can see what happened, you can read the email that was sent, etc. So it's very public information available for public consumption. By the way, passwording is a big is an issue that we take seriously in the system, and some companies do not want their salespeople seeing or looking at one another's pipeline. And so if you've got the admin rights set up properly to put that restriction in place, a salesperson would be set up that they can only see their leads in here and not someone else's. We even have it going as far as a triage group, for example, that if you've got one project manager that manages 3 salespeople, you can say the project manager can see everybody's stuff, but the salesperson can't see one another's, etc. So there's a lot of interesting corporate structures out there, I would say, and we're sensitive to those things, and we've built a lot of functionality in the system to protect sensitive information. Okay, so what we can do here is, if I want to email to Jeff straight out of the system, I can click on his name in this pipeline. It'll open up an email dialog box. I can go right in here and say test, for example, and then I can go down below here. If you have an HTML email signature, it'll plug in here, and then I can say send the email. It will then kind of give me a little indicator that something's processing here. Sometimes give me a little blue circle depending on the network traffic. And when it's all done, it'll give me a confirmation that it went successfully. So give it just a moment here. There's our wait indicator, email went successfully, great. And it'll return me back out of that. So that's how you can email directly out of the system. And then you'll see the email history gets recorded in here as well on this particular account, like so. So emailing directly out of the system is a great thing to have, and almost all the modules will allow us to email out of that. All right, if I go back into my pipeline and we go on over here, this is my recall date. This is my next action. If I see a green checkbox, the P stands for proposal. So if there's a check mark in the box, that indicates that I submitted a formal proposal to the client. Anything without a checkbox is just or a check mark, I should say, is a lead that we're working, but we have not gotten to the point of submitting the proposal yet. We already showed you how you can update dollar size. You can also update probability. So if you're on the phone following up, or you get a return email, someone says, yep, we're going to let you do it, it's looking good, then you can change your probabilities. When a probability does get changed, it automatically updates your weighted average and your grand total at the bottom. And then you've got your sales stages, your product interest, opportunity source, and market segments, etc., all the way across here. So pretty much all the information that you see on the form view or on the record view, you're seeing in the pipeline. This goes a little bit further here. I mean, I think you can all see the power of this by just looking at it and what it's doing for you. And again, this information lives somewhere. So I can look at this metric here by the dollar amounts, which is what I'm seeing right here, and what sales stage they're in. So the biggest one here is measure schedule. We've got, 200 grand or so in that thing. But I can also look at it by the number of leads. And so in the measure schedule, we just have a very small amount. It just gives you, I can look at both graphs together. So this is kind of nice in retail that if I said, we've got great dollars that came in the measure schedule category, but we've only got one lead in that category. Or maybe more importantly, if we looked at market segment or advertising segment, I can say, wow, schools, churches, we've got a lot of revenue from that market segment, and it's only one lead. Whereas, we've got 4 leads that we're working here and the not identified, and it's really no dollars on it at all. And this may be because somebody just hasn't plugged in a dollar amount, but being able to compare your dollars to the lead number gives you an idea if you're just kind of getting too much busy work in something, but it's not bringing a lot of revenue into the business. Or last but not least, if I really don't want to look at the graphs right now and I'm just wanting to see more detail in this pipeline list, I can click none and it will hide those graphs for me. So you get a choice of doing that as well. Final thing I kind of want to touch on here is the sort capability. So this is great because you can see by month what you're anticipating closing, but if you haven't updated it in a while, now, it may not be that accurate. So if I go here and I say, June of 21, that's a year ago almost now, and this thing needs to be updated, and it's really going to close, we'll say, today. So when I change the projected award date, it automatically shifts that lead down into a different month bucket, as we see here for Davy Jones. And I can do the same thing here with Star 10, for example. And we're going to set that one at, right in here, we'll say that's going to be today again. And then I'm going to click back in it and say that's going to be June 1st of 22. And then when I do that and click out, it'll dynamically create a June 1st, 22. And it was a $250,000 lead, 90% probability. So my $225,000 flowed down into that. So you can keep this updated. You should always roll your data forward if you're working your pipeline properly. The other thing too that's kind of nice, if you said, I'd just like to see these things sorted by dollar amount. Well, I can hit it that way and click it twice and it's ascending, descending. That's my highest lead. Or I can say, just show me all my hot leads. And by double clicking, I can say, here's my 90% or my 80, my 70s, my 50s. That may be the one that you want to follow up on first. I can look at sales stages to see who's in the decision phase or whatever. That's, once again, the touchstone back to what we talked about earlier, that we don't tie sales stages with probabilities, and then so on. So you could also look at your projected award date. That was the original sort that we had when we went in there. If you're heavy into advertising or tracking your market segments, I can go right in here and say for corporate tenant improvement, we've got 57,000 in our pipe. Unspecified is 122. Oops, this one right here is really, that's another corporate TI job. I can fix that in the pipe. It'll drop it down in here and change my number to 162,000. So again, allowing it to be very easy for your sales staff to keep this grid up to date and produce really meaningful pipeline information for them. So when a lead is, 2 other things I'll touch on, 2 or 3 things, and then we will conclude the video. How do leads get closed? How do they get denoted as one? Well, if I've got a lead that is a proposal, so this Hesperian Builders, we talked about that little green checkbox here. If I click on that, that'll take me back in here, and we can see that we've submitted 3 proposals, like 3 different renditions of a proposal as they've requested changes in here. And it's got them dated, of course, and I can click into this one and it would show me all of the data on the particular proposal. When this proposal gets converted to a sale, so we see, this is not a demo video about the proposal. We've got other videos on that. But when this proposal converts from a proposal back to a sale and it marks it as a sale, well, let's just do it. So if we say transfer to an order, and we'll say finish the transfer, yep, we'll continue. Yeah, that's fine. Now, it's going to say, do you want to close the opportunity? So if I said, yes, we have won this job now, the reason is because we were charming, and it's closing on today, we'll say April 21st. And when I say, and it shows me all of the information that came forward, what stage it was in and all that. And if I say continue, it's going to say the opportunity was 25 grand originally, is what we plugged into that number. But the quote's 12,000. Do you want to update the opportunity? And when I say yes to that, it goes back into the system. It changes the dollar amount of the opportunity in the opportunity module pipeline, and then it marks it as one and it drops it out of our pipeline for us. So it's really nice to have that. This is it right here, so I can go back in and we can look at it and say it was one and the dates that's closed, and then tonight it would automatically drop that out of my pipeline. So it'll leave it visible just for a moment and then it'll go away, kind of like the bid register works. So if you've lost a lead and you want to drop it out, you can just tag it as lost, and your reasons here will be available. So the lost reasons will be different than the won reasons. And if you're really not sure what happened to it, you just want to suspend it, you can go back and find all your suspendeds and bring them back to life later, or archive. You can tag those as well as that. So the data never goes away. It just kind of limits the visibility on it so that you're focused on more of a narrow, realistic group there in your opportunity module. So I think that about explains everything that I wanted to cover for you in the opportunity module. Hopefully you like what you see. This is included. It is not an add-on module in both Floor Manager and Job Runner, and it's something that every company really should be using to the best of their ability, because it's a great tool and a great asset to every business. Thank you for considering Pacific Solutions and for watching this video.